Hey, boss talent. Ann Ganguza here with a quick shout out to those who are a little freaked out about marketing. VO Boss Blast is your secret weapon, making your marketing manageable. Your voice deserves to be heard. Join us at voboss.com and start your marketing campaign today.
I've just finished listening to Creative Brilliance with Improv, Anne and Law, and all I can say is, yes, ladies, improv is absolutely one of my favorite activities, and the life of the pre-life is real. Remembering that the run-in line or your lead-in line does not only exist at the beginning of your read, but throughout. It's a critical activity. The running conversation that has to happen in your head truly makes a difference. So ladies, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it.
It's time to take your business to the next level, the boss level. These are the premier business owner strategies and successes being utilized by the industry's top talent today. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss. Now let's welcome your host, Ann Ganguza.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the VO Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and I am here with my boss superpower business buddy, Law Lapidez. Hey, Law, how are you today?
Annie, fabulous. How are you? I missed you.
I know, it's been a while. It has been too long, Law. And so I asked, how are you? How's it going? I mean, what have you been working on?
Well, let me just say this. I haven't had a booking in a while.
Really?
Yes.
Well, how often are you auditioning?
I'm auditioning every day for like an hour, maybe even 2. And I'm waiting for my agents, and I have a few agents to send me things. And they haven't. And I'm really upset.
Well, Law, I think maybe it's time for us to sit down and have a talk about getting real and really talking about what does it take to get work in this industry. I don't think maybe waiting for your agents, and you know this as an agent, is necessarily something that you want to be doing. I think let's talk about how we can be proactive as actors, because I hear that a lot. I mean, thank you for that little role play, Law.
I was just about to say, I actually spoke with a coaching client this week who gave me that exact conversation, and I wanted to role play that with you because it's common now.
I have so many students that talk to me and say, are we ready to make that demo? I mean, why do I need more sessions? I'm like, if you could do some more homework, I give homework. I'm a homework girl. And so they could be practicing scripts like an audition, like auditions every single day. And yet at the end of a week, they might have recorded 1 or 2. And then they're like, well, why am I not any closer to my demo? I'm like, well, how much work have you put into it? So, that's an excellent topic. What does it take? How much do we have to put into our careers? You get out what you put in.
Well, listen, you're taking the words right out of my mouth.
Right?
Like we're sisters, East-West Coast sisters. I was just about to say, you get out of it what you put into it. It sounds so cliche, but I'm telling you, I'm saying that more than ever now. And the truth is we're even grinding more these days for less at times because of the saturation of competition. So you just have to put that into your equation.
And I like that you brought that up because now we've got evolving moving parts too, right? I mean, 10 years ago, the industry was a particular way. There were so many people in the industry, but I'll tell you what, it's more saturated than ever. I'm not here to say that there isn't work because there's a ton of work out there. However, my goodness, you have to realize that, and I say this, how many times have I said this on how many podcasts, Law? When we go to school and learn a skill, I mean, we practice that skill for hours. We go to school for years. And so I don't understand why people that come into this industry think that they can just immediately go out and book work as if they've been doing it for years.
Well, you know, that's very interesting you say that, Annie, because I'm seeing especially an older set, and some have been in it for 3, 4, 5, 6 years and feel like veterans, and to some degree they are veterans, say, okay, where's my payoff? Okay, where's my semi-retirement, so to speak? Like it should just be coming in like mailbox money and I don't have to do much. When the truth is, if you look at, and I always go back to like the biggies, the big box stores, they're running advertising, they're running sales, they're thinking up new campaigns. What aren't they doing, right? And they've been around for 50, 60, 70 years. Think about that. It's because their competition is shifting, the generations are shifting, and they really have to keep up with those tides. They can't sit back and say, oh, but we're Target and we've been around now for 60 years. So it's like, well, you have some competition now, especially online. And so,
I'm glad that you brought that up because it affects everyone. It doesn't just affect new people coming into the industry. It affects veterans in the industry as well, because if they're not moving with the times and they're not paying attention and their eyeballs aren't open and they aren't thinking outside the box these days, and that includes maybe working with different coaches on different genres, because every little bit, even though you might be a polished actor and you've been doing this for years, I mean, I'm a lifelong learner. I think you can always get something from more education. And so I really feel as though it's important for actors to continue their education and continue their quest for thinking outside the box. I mean, especially in today's voiceover industry, because it is truly the whole digital online thing has really just disrupted what used to be.
Yes.
And we need to be prepared for that, and we need to be able to roll with the changes, roll with the punches, so to speak.
That's a perfect word you're using. That's like the new word, disruptor, be a disruptor. Well, I'm going to disrupt you right now, and I'm going to say you do have to work harder. And that's not welcome by a lot of people who are being brought up in this ideology of work-life balance. Well, I'm telling you, when you're building business and you're grinding in business, there is not the work-life balance that you would like to have. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. You just cannot, as much as we try to generationally. And I'm not saying don't take care of yourself or don't be good to yourself and be healthy, but I am saying you will have somewhat of an imbalanced life as you're building business and sustaining and keeping business, because you have to grind. You have to work really hard.
You made a big distinction. I'm going to tag on to that and say that this is your own business. And so, that only needing to put in the work for so many hours per day and not necessarily doing more than that, I don't know if that holds water when you are running your own business, because in reality, it's not like you're depending on someone to give you that paycheck every week or every 2 weeks. Now you're the one that's going out and doing everything and generating the leads. And so, I mean, absolutely, I'm not saying you can't work 9 to 5 if that's what you choose. However, if you choose that, understand that there's consequences for that, especially when you're first starting out. I mean, in order to get the work, you've got to generate the leads. And a lot of times, I mean, I think people have to know that they probably have to work harder than they thought to generate those leads.
I think that's really it.
Everybody's like, well, I'm not booking. I have great demos and now I'm not booking. And I'm like, well, okay, let's just talk about the first thing I asked you about auditioning. So auditioning, how often are you auditioning? How many auditions? Now, I know if people aren't pay-to-plays, they might get penalized if they audition too much. However, there is a multitude of opportunities out there. And I'm not saying you should spend 8 hours a day auditioning. However, you've got to go out there and search the opportunities. If you're not auditioning, you should be marketing to people who can give you opportunities.
Right. And how many of these folks, too, when you really dig a little deep and dive in there, Annie, they're not keeping up with their current connections. Oftentimes, they haven't flagged them. They're not in their calendar. Maybe they did an audition, a showcase, whatever, a year ago. They haven't been in touch with them. It's this ideology of, I'm still waiting for things to come to me, rather than proactively going out and getting them. And the building and sustaining of relationships, as you and I know, is really about reminding. It's like, think of yourself.
Top of mind.
Think of yourself in terms of advertising. right?
Yeah.
Advertisers have to show you something 10, 15, 20, 25 times in a day, maybe even more, right? Well, we do too. We have to remind people that we're here, remind them what we do, remind them that we have a relationship together. That's on me. That's on you. That's on the onus of us, right?
Yeah.
And you and I are great examples. We've been in our businesses for 15, 16, 17 years now. You and I are texting each other on a Saturday in the middle of the night.
Absolutely.
Now, true, we're on different time zones, but we're still obsessively up in the middle of the night thinking, ooh, why don't we do this on Wednesday?
Next? And what's
right?
next? Exactly.
So isn't there a part of that, like if we take out the obsessive quality, which I understand I'm obsessive, to your audience, I am, and I admit it. But isn't there a part of it that's so fun, that's so much joy, that's like you get a kick out of thinking up new ideas
it's a challenge
and executing them and going after 6 people that you haven't talked to in a few months. And I feel like it authentically is missing from a lot of people's like persona to do that. They feel like, oh, where's my job and where's my money and where's my credit versus where's my process?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you brought that up. You need to give a reminder to these people. I mean, that's the whole, and I know that people are scared about spamming, but honestly, if you take a look at the trends now in marketing, in email marketing, and especially on the retail level, right? Because I join a lot of mailing lists, and I always encourage people to join mailing lists for companies that they want to work for so that you can understand how they market. And then you can learn a lot from other companies' marketing, really. Retail-wise, I get reminders, I get texts, messages, and I'm trying to think outside the box about, okay, how can I SMS text my clients, which is now becoming an option for a lot of the new marketing methods out there. I mean, I know the Wix backend now enables you to SMS, remind people, or text them within your sales promotions. And that's kind of a cool thing that people can, of course, opt out of. But I'm doing a lot of my business via text. So for me, my brain is thinking, how can I keep connected with my clients, right, via text so that it's not intrusive, but yet says, hey, I'm here, by the way, and kind of spark that top of mind where they're like, oh, yeah, Anne would be great for this job.
Yes. 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 I mean, anything you can be thinking about, even one new methodology that you bring into your business. It doesn't have to be every single day. It doesn't have to be all day long. It's just one new concept, one new idea can change the whole face of what you do and really how you work. I oftentimes say to folks that we're coaching, do you know if you reach out to one new person or one new company a day, which for you and I is not a whole lot, but for someone else, it might be a lot to take on. One, that's 5 a week in terms of work days.
Sure.
That's 20 in a month.
Yeah,
20.
absolutely.
And then you say, but Law, I can do 3 or 4 in a day. And I said, well, then do it, because then you're going to be 100 prospects richer by the end of the month.
Absolutely.
And why aren't you doing that? And you know what the reason is? I'll tell you, one of the firewalls reasoning behind why they're not doing it is, I'm afraid, Law. Why are you afraid? I'm afraid I don't know what to say to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I say, let's start off by just being human and making sure that you have done your research on them so that you can make a good introduction and that you're not going to be wasting their time by giving them like paragraphs and paragraphs of all about you. But really, it's got to be about how you can help them.
Yes. And one of the things that I can tell you, I lived my whole life this way, that books jobs is your energy and your tone. And just like ironically, how as an actor you would read and think about what's my tone for this commercial, this e-learning copy. What's my tone when I reach out to someone, when I talk to someone? And you get hired for your energy and you get fired for your energy or lack thereof.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to rely sometimes on your personality and say, you know, that books a lot of jobs if you're likable.
Can I be completely honest and say that your personality, when it comes out in your read, right, that's what makes you unique. That's your point of view, right? And that's what connects us as humans to each other. And so people always say, well, how do I sound? How does my voice sound? Am I cut out for this industry? And I'm like, no, it's not really about that. It's about being able to bring yourself to the party. And how many times have we heard that said over and over again? And I just want to say it differently so that maybe people, like, all of a sudden I want that light bulb to go off. Because honestly, it's that innate, like, non-touchable thing that when we meet somebody and we say, God, I like her. Like when I met you, I was like, man, I like that girl.
I felt the same way about you.
She's got it going on. And thus began this relationship. And so I can tell people when I do consults all the time, I've got a few coming up after this, but they'll say, do I sound like I can make it in this industry? I'm like, but in reality, it's all about bringing yourself to that read, that special uniqueness that is you. And if you can develop the skills to allow yourself and the permission to allow yourself to do that, that's what's going to connect with the listener at the other end. And that's what's going to make you successful, right? Is that connection with the listener. And of course, all the other stuff should just come by the wayside, right? It's kind of like we're storytellers. Well, how do I tell that story when the script is written in this way? Well, you have to create that story, right? Create those opportunities, right? And how are you going to lock in those opportunities? By being your human, wonderful, beautiful, awesome self and just connecting.
So wait a second, Annie. Are you hitting on something deeper now? Are you really talking maybe about the fact that there is a true and honest lack of self-confidence, which may even be deeper than that, a lack of self-esteem and a lack of self-value, because it really does challenge us to say, if we're reaching out to someone, there's a reason, and we have to share who we are and what we do with that person. And if you don't know who you are and what you do, then there's a real lack on your end that you have to go and dive deep. You have to go coach, get therapy, go meditate, whatever you need to do to find that. The end user, that audience, they do not care. They're not there for that. They're not there to build you up. They're not there to give you confidence. They're not there. They're there for you to help them.
And they're not there seeking you out necessarily, right? So again, the work that needs to be done for success in this industry, especially today, you have to work your butt off. I'm just saying. Even for us that we've been in this business for how many years, we know how hard we have to work, and now we're working even harder, right?
But Annie, why is that a bad thing? Why is that been given a bad name? Why is that something that is sort of shoved under the rug? Like, oh, we don't want to do that. We want to work less hours in the week. We want to take more vacations. And I'm thinking, well, it's all well and good, but don't you want to build a business?
Sure.
And to build a business from the ground up and sustain it, especially during hard times, economic times, whatever, during war, you got to work really hard. That's the old school work ethic you and I have.
Well, yes. And I'm going to say that, okay, do you have to work that hard 24/7? Well, I mean, I do just because it's an ethic. But honestly, like...
And we're totally obsessed. But besides
that, but in reality, look, you can be super talented. You can get a great campaign, right? But every person that I know that has really made it in this industry that has been uber successful, you can never count on that client being there tomorrow. And so even though you might have a great gig and a great contract and it's been ongoing and you're making good money, I don't think any of these professionals out here have ever stopped looking or cultivating or continually growing. That's what makes them successful. So you can't just necessarily just say, well, I've got my client. I did great this year. And so therefore I can kind of rest a little bit and maybe not have to work so hard. I mean, once in a while, of course you need to take your time off. But in reality, you're constantly looking for that next client, constantly. And that doesn't just happen in an hour a day. Now, for those people that are working right now, and, you know, again, I always tell people, don't give up your day job yet. Until you find out that this is something you're truly passionate about and that you truly want to pursue, because the time required to generate those leads, the time required to audition, the time required to do all the things that is necessary to build and grow your business, not just exist and have a business. Okay, I set up my business. I have my demos. Here I am. That's not enough. That is this tiny little tip of the iceberg.
Do you know what that reminds me of, Annie? When we had brick and mortars pre-COVID, and we did most of our work pre-COVID in brick and mortar, that was like, okay, I set up my shop. I set up my physical location. I had my coffee maker there. We had our computers there. We paid the heat. We had toilet paper. It sounds ridiculous, but you have to think of all of that when you have a brick and mortar. All right, how come I'm not successful? Oh, because I haven't started the work.
Yeah.
I haven't started. The work was just preliminary.
Yeah.
The preliminary of building the house. There's a ton preliminary. But to actually build a house, that's a whole other set of things, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing your due diligence by training and getting your demos and setting up your booth, you get big applause from me. You get big kudos from me because you beat out half the competition already.
Yeah, absolutely.
But don't think that that's the work. That's not the work of owning a business. That's just the brick and mortar, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
The setup of the business. And the setup is always changing and upgrading too.
Yeah, now
right?
you've got to work the business.
Now you got to work
You got the business. Now you got to work the business.
And you and I are workers. Like, we're worker bees. We like working. We like the validation. I mean, look, my mother in real life is 85 years old. Guys, don't tell her that I told you that. She's amazing. She's a licensed family therapist, and she works still full-time, 85 years old. She says, I will never not work. It's my identity. I want to be helping people. I want to be giving to the world. I want to be making money. I want to be this and that. There's this sense of like kicking back and going, what's coming to me? I'm 85 now. What's coming? No. Taking on new clients and seeing how she can help them solve their problems, which are more complicated these days, by the way.
Right. That was a key thing that you said, was that she wants to help people. So it's not that she doesn't deserve a rest or she doesn't deserve to kick back at this point in her life, but it brings her joy. And
she doesn't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
she's
a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah. She's
a lot of
people
want to be in the world. They want to be a part of the world, that spoke in the wheel, so to speak, but be a part of a large community, which we are, a very large global community, but really be doing our own unique part of that, our own unique feel to that. And you and I mean, I take on pro bono projects. I take on projects that I'm giving back. Why? Because I want to. It fills my soul. It fills my spirit. I love working with maybe younger people coming up in the industry or people who don't have a budget that really need help. I like that. Listen, if huge civil rights attorneys can do that, I can do that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I'm not saying to work for free. I'm just saying the point is, what's your process? Why are you doing it? Take a step back and say, if I want to have it easy, and I don't want to work too hard, then ask yourself a more important question. Why am I doing this?
Then get a job and work for someone else.
Yeah, get a paycheck every week, right?
Get a paycheck. Don't expect to come into voiceover land and have that same kind of mindset where that's going to work.
Yeah, go and be a middle manager at Chipotle and you're all set.
Absolutely.
You got the good food, you got the salary, you got the benefits. It's a whole different mindset about things.
Very much
so.
I
mean, my dad, who is an entrepreneur, he always said to me, Annie, there are two people in the world. One is the employee and the employee mindset, and one is the employer.
Yeah. Actually,
and they're two different mindsets.
Absolutely. We are an employer mindset.
Yes.
We have to be an employer mindset. So, Law, this doesn't mean, right, for the bosses out there, well, how much time, right? Well, I mean, for us, I work a 16-hour day, but am I in the booth for 16 hours? No, I am not. I am marketing. I am creating content for marketing. I am reaching out to clients. And, of course, I'm doing stuff in my studio as well. I'm auditioning. I'm auditioning for my agents. I'm auditioning for rosters. I mean, hours. And so I know how hard it is, and I will speak to working a full-time job and then just seeing if voiceover is for me. That's the hard part about doing it part-time. I almost thought that doing voiceover part-time was harder than doing it full-time. I mean, the risk is greater when you quit your job and go full-time into voiceover, especially financially if you don't have that cushion. And I don't recommend that you do that if you don't have a financial cushion. Do not quit your day job. But if you're working full-time and you're doing voiceover, you've got to work so hard. Oh my gosh.
So hard.
You've got your 9 to 5 or whatever that might be during the day. And then every spare moment of the day has to be working on voiceover. And that's the hardest, especially when you're starting, because you're practicing, you're getting better at acting, hopefully you're coaching with somebody, you're working towards a demo, or you've gotten a demo. Or so now, if you've gotten your demos, then when you get home from your day job, you've got to be marketing, right? And you've got to find your leads. You've got to create content. You've got so many things to do in those hours, and you've got a family to take care of. So it is excruciatingly tiring when you are doing this with a full-time job. I get that, guys. But again, if this is something that you want to pursue and this is the life that you are looking for, it's just what you've got to do to make it work. I mean, to be quite honest, otherwise I have so many people that kind of half-heartedly put their time in. They'll do the coaching, they'll get the demo, and they're working full-time, but then they're like, well, but I haven't gotten a job yet, and I'm on a pay-to-play. I haven't gotten a job yet. Well, you've got to audition your tush off. You've got to market your tush off at this point.
Yes.
And that means hours a day. That doesn't necessarily mean like 5 minutes a day. But if you can do something every day, I always say do something voiceover related every single day. That to me is something that says you are dedicated to making this work, to making this be successful. And again, it's tougher than ever these days. You're fighting a lot of people in the industry.
You're fighting. And I would say, too, as you said earlier, Annie, do the homework, do the research. Don't come in cold. Talk to people, see what they do in the career. We used to call those internships or apprenticeships. Well, you kind of have to do your own. You don't want to try to make a living on a scaffold 50 flights up if you're scared of heights.
Yeah.
Right? You have to know what the occupational hazards are. You have to understand what the hours put in, what the dangers are, what financial issues you could run into. You really have to be smart up front rather than saying, well, why aren't I making money? That to me is a very sort of novice-y green question to ask if you've done some of the homework and talked to working professionals who have been very successful. They will all tell you, even the most successful people who are making livings doing animation or they're a series regular on a TV show, they'll say, listen, I know when I book something, I better save that money. I better invest that money. I better do whatever because I may not work for a year.
Yeah,
I may not get another decent booking for a year. And I have to know that. I have to plan for that.
So bosses, go out there and get the work. Go out there and do it. Spend the time, put in the hours, and I think you're going to see results. I mean, it's as simple as that. Put in the work. You're going to see results. It's probably a lot more than you think.
Yep. The more you put in, the more you'll get out.
Absolutely.
There it is.
All right.
There it is.
Great big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL. You too can network like bosses like Law and myself. Find out more at IPDTL.com. You guys, bosses, have an amazing week and go out there and get it. Go out there and get it. We love you.
All
right.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your host, Ann Ganguza. And take your business to the next level. Sign up for our mailing list at voboss.com and receive exclusive content, industry revolutionizing tips and strategies, and new ways to rock your business like a boss. Redistribution with permission, coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.
5, 6, 7, 8. I'm trying to go faster. I'm trying to go 5, 6, 7, 8. Ganguza.
I know.
Lapidus.
You're waiting for me. That's probably what it is.
I am
There's
waiting
a
for you.
delay.
All right.
Guys, there's the delay. All right, wait.
Oh.